can we please talk about UFC 252 Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier 3? Wow, that crept up, didn't it? Crept up? So yeah, it's literally, this weekend. I cannot wait for this fight. It is arguably the biggest heavyweight fight in the history of the UFC. I mean, it's between that and Brock Lesnar against Frank Mir, I guess, like UFC 100. But I mean, this one's definitely the most meaningful because I mean, really, the winner of this like stakes a claim to being the greatest heavyweight of all time. Now, I've seen a lot of kind of negativity like being thrown at Daniel Cormier, saying that even if he wins this fight, do you know what I mean, he's not even in the conversation because he got beaten by John Jones and only had like 5 fights at heavyweight and whatever. No. Shut up, right? Daniel Cormier is an all-time great. Do you know what I mean? He was the Strikeforce Grand Prix heavyweight champion. He's come in and look, at the end of the day, okay, he didn't beat John Jones, but he was the light heavyweight champion because John Jones failed to stay within the rule set. He's the one that got himself suspended, not Daniel Cormier. Cormier didn't do any of those. John Jones did some bad shit and he got held accountable for it, right? So at the end of the day, whether you feel like it was legitimate or not, that's irrelevant because he held the belt. It's there. It's in the record books. Do you know what I mean? And he also beat some really tough contenders. I mean, Alexander Gustafsson. He submitted Anthony Johnson twice, and Anthony Johnson is a killer. Do you know what I mean? So and then he comes up to heavyweight. He beats Stipe Miocic. He comes up to heavyweight and beats the heavyweight champion, right? And then he rematches with him, and he gets caught. Do you know what I mean? Well, not caught, but I mean, Miocic did a great job of changing up his game plan and really punching him. But either way, it's 1-on-1, and I think that people need to give Daniel Cormier just from what I've seen, there's been just a lot of people giving him loads of negative shit, and I just don't really understand it. I think that to kind of say that Daniel Cormier isn't going to go down as an all-time great, I think is ridiculous. You putting blinkers on, aren't you? Because maybe you're a Jones fan, or you just don't like Daniel Cormier. But either way, irrelevant. The fight that's coming up is against Stipe Miocic. This one is for all the marbles, isn't it? It's a classic trilogy bout. They're 1-1 going into it. It's the heavyweights. It's for the heavyweight title. It doesn't really get much bigger than this. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And these guys are finishers as well. Like both of their fights, like beforehand, that they've both been entertaining. Cormier coming in as an underdog in the first fight to knock out Stipe Miocic. I actually had some money on that one. And then in the rematch, Miocic, he just made all the right adjustments because, to be honest, he was getting outpointed in that fight up until he made those adjustments. He started digging to the body. Those liver shots were just nasty. He started really kind of changing it up, and he just started smashing, really punishing Daniel Cormier to the body, and that caused Cormier to kind of start dropping his hands because he was hurt. And then Stipe Miocic went in there and just finished the job, and fair play to him. This one, the odds are very close, and they should be very close because this one's going to be a really close fight. Really, who the fuck knows who's going to win this one? I mean, they're 1-1, and they both knocked each other out. So it's just, you've got some interesting odds though, because here's what I think is going to happen. I mean, because I do give Daniel Cormier the slight advantage, right? Now, Daniel Cormier is coming in at a very slight favourite at the moment. 1.83, Miocic is 1.91. I believe, unless I'm dreaming it, I'm pretty sure when I checked the odds the other day, that it was the other way around, but I might have just misread it, because I don't know, maybe they've switched. They might switch around. Either way, the betting lines on either one of them to win are pretty close. But there are a couple of bets here that I think could be interesting, right? Because one thing you've got to bear in mind is that there is a key difference for this fight. It is taking place at the Apex Centre. The Apex Centre has the smaller octagon, right? Now, I think that favours Daniel Cormier, because Daniel Cormier, win or lose, this is going to be Daniel Cormier's last fight. And you've got to think he wants to go out on a win. Now, I know that he knows he can knock Stipe out because he's done it before. He did it in the first fight. But I don't think think that's his best. I think even he knows that his best chance of winning this is if he can dominate with the wrestling, because he is, he's one of the best wrestlers like the sport has ever seen. He is Olympic caliber. Not saying that Stipe Miocic isn't a good wrestler in himself. We saw that against Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou, really frightening challenger, and Stipe Miocic showed his wrestling pedigree in that fight, where he just kept on grounding, Francis Ngannou. But and also, I haven't necessarily seen any glaring weaknesses in terms of Stipe's wrestling. So maybe it's a little bit presumptuous just to assume that Daniel Cormier is going to be able to take him down. With that being said, I think that that's going to be Cormier's perceived path to victory. I'm not sure, after the last time out, that Daniel Cormier is going to risk standing in front of Stipe Miocic for this entire fight. Now, the way that Daniel Cormier dispatched of Anthony Johnson, who was the scary striker at the time, both times he took him down and submitted him, which is why I think it's strange that the odds are so long on Daniel Cormier getting the submission. Just to put it into perspective, Daniel Cormier to get the knockout is 3-1, and since he's done it before, you can't really. Those odds are fine, right? Decision is 5-1, but the submission is 13-1. Now, considering Daniel Cormier really loves getting into top position and finding that choke, do you know what I mean? Because like I said, he did it to Johnson twice. He's done it to Lewis. He's done it. He's done that exact same thing. Just gets you down, gets the back, and he knows how to. He's just very dominant. Once he's in that dominant position, he can tire you out until you present an opportunity to get a choke or whatever else he might go for. I think the submission could be there. I really do, because I'm not saying that necessarily Stipe Miocic is going to be easy to take down. Far from it. Because Stipe's shown his wrestling pedigree in the past, as I say, but we haven't really seen it tested that much from a defensive standpoint. However, if anybody could test it, it's Daniel Cormier. And I just think that Daniel Cormier is going to at least try to wrestle in this fight. I don't know if he's necessarily going to have success, but on paper, he should. So I just think that 13-1, those odds are crazy. When it's something that Cormier has shown in the past that he not only is capable of doing, but also he's inclined to do it, if that makes sense. Now, Stipe Miocic, you've got some good odds there. The KO is 2.63-1. You've got to think that if he's winning it, he's probably going to be either getting the knockout or the decision. It's 6-1. And, the submission is 17-1. Because it's probably not going to happen. I mean, I'll probably end up replaying that back when Stipe Miocic gets the submission victory now. But either way, you're getting excellent odds on the submission there, because the submission is very, very unlikely. But that's slightly different to Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier has at least shown in the past that he looks to do that. Whereas you don't generally see that from Stipe Miocic. He's more of a kind of a ground and pound, or he's generally his fight to play out on the feet. So, my bet on this fight is just going on Daniel Cormier by submission, right? Which is a terrible bet, because I've specified the method. And that's just ridiculous, because now it could be any number of things that happen. But 13-1, you can't hate on that. That's brilliant, Because, Cormier, I just see it as a real distinct possibility that, that he could do it. I'm also going to put it together with an accumulator, because I love doing a quick accumulator. Now, this accumulator, it's not exactly very good odds, really. It's only 6.25-1, but I am going for Daniel Cormier, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Sean O'Malley, and Marab Davishvili, all to win, and that's going to be 6.25-1. Now, what I am doing, I'm going to need to wait until Sky Bet bring out the odds for the finish on Rozenstruik and Valishvili's fights, because I am going to try and see what odds I get if I specify DC by submission, Rozenstruik by knockout, Sean O'Malley by knockout, and Valishvili by decision, because I think that is going to be a terrible bet. And either way, I am so excited for this fight. It's going to be great fun to watch. I hope you enjoy it too. Until I see you next time, just keep those odds long and those bets terrible.